Hi. Before we dive into system building, let's establish something important. No human-made system is meant to outdo the ultimate system. Every structure we create, whether it's for productivity, business, health, or personal growth, is only a reflection, an attempt to organize life in a way that makes sense to us. But there is already a system in place, one that existed before us and will exist after us. Some people try to build systems without understanding who designed the original one, the one that governs everything: time, action, consequence, sustenance, life itself. Life itself. If you don't recognize this first, you'll end up chasing shadows, mistaking human constructs for something absolute. With that in mind, let's talk about the systems people create for themselves, how they're formed, why no one teaches you how to build them, and what happens when you start taking control of the process. Let's be honest, most people don't want to build their own system. They want the system, the one that guarantees success, eliminates uncertainty, and comes with 100% satisfaction guarantee. We crave systems because they promise order in a chaotic world. They tell us, if you just follow these steps, you'll get what you want. Want to be productive? Follow this 10-step morning routine. Want to be wealthy? Buy this course. Want inner peace? Meditate exactly like this. But here's the problem. The people selling these systems, they didn't start with them. Every so-called system builder had a messy, chaotic trial and error journey before they figured out what worked. Then they repackaged that chaos into something that looks structured in hindsight. They tell you, just follow my system, and one day you'll be able to make your own. But they didn't have that luxury. They had to steal, remix, and experiment their way to something that worked. Why do we trust systems? It's not just laziness, it's human nature. There's the fear of uncertainty. A system feels like a roadmap. It reduces the anxiety of wandering into the unknown. And there's belief in authority. If someone sounds confident enough, we assume they know what they're talking about. Kind of like this. And then of course there's the pain of decision making. Life throws too many choices at us. The system simplifies things by saying, do this, not that. And sure, some systems work, to a degree. The fitness program that gets you off the couch, the productivity hack that makes you procrastinate less, the spiritual practice that helps you focus. But here's the truth they don't tell you. Every system is a crutch. Useful at first, but if you lean on it too long, you become dependent. Because no system is universal. No blueprint accounts for your unique struggles, experiences, or way of thinking. If you never learn how to create, tweak, or discard a system, you become just another follower, stuck in someone else's framework, even when it stops serving you. Here's the funniest part to me. All the great system builders, whether in business, self-improvement, or philosophy, were forced to figure things out without a system. There's Tim Ferriss, who spent years breaking systems before creating his. He's the guy who did the 4-hour work week thing and now is famous for other things. Marie Kondo tested dozens of ideas before finding her signature approach. She's the decluttering lady who helps you organize your house. And there's James Clear, who didn't just wake up one day with the perfect framework. He gathered insights from psychology, self-experimentation, and trial and error. He's the guy behind Atomic Habits. None of these people had a pre-packaged guide that led them exactly where they ended up. They had to borrow, tweak, and discard ideas until something clicked. And then they turned that process into something they could sell. Which brings us to the real question. If they didn't have a system to start with, why do they insist you need one? The answer is simple. Because teaching a system is easier than teaching system building. System building is messy. It's uncertain. It requires deep thinking, observation, and patience. And as far as I know, most people don't want to hear that. But if you do want to hear it, if you want to break out of the cycle of just following and start creating, then you have to stop searching for the perfect system and instead start looking at what actually works for you. Let's say you find a system that works for you. Maybe it's a morning routine that actually makes you productive, or a budgeting method that helps you save money without feeling deprived. At some point, you might think, hey, if this worked for me, maybe it could work for other people too. And this is where the real system building starts. Not at the beginning, but at the end. Because that's how all successful systems are born. Nobody starts with a perfect framework. Instead, they stumble their way through trial and error, figure out what works, and only then do they look back and organize their messy process into something structured enough to teach. And if they package it well enough, they can sell it to the masses. But here's the harsh truth. Some people get to sell systems, and some don't. Let's talk about who gets to sell them, and why some systems stick while others fade. Most systems, whether they're about success, productivity, fitness, or self-improvement, come from a specific kind of person. The first kind we'll call the experimenter, someone who tests everything on themselves and documents their results. People like Tim Ferriss and James Clear, who I mentioned earlier. I'm personally not a big fan, but these are just examples. The second kind of person would be the observer, someone who studies patterns in other people's success and distills them into principles. People like Malcolm Gladwell or Robert Greene. Again, please don't think much of the examples that I'm using. This is just to illustrate a point. And the third kind we'll call the replicator, someone who takes an existing idea, tweaks it slightly, and rebrands it as their own. I'd say this is most online gurus. Notice what's missing? Almost no one starts with a system. Even the best system builders had to figure out things the hard way before they had something worth teaching. Here's where it gets interesting, at least to me. If you study the most famous systems, you'll notice a pattern. Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour workweek guy, didn't invent productivity hacks. He borrowed from stoicism, military strategy, and automation experts. And Marie Kondo didn't create decluttering. She just combined Japanese minimalism with a fresh emotional approach. What about James Clear? He didn't discover how habits work. He just synthesized decades of behavioral psychology into something that we could digest. The best system creators aren't actually inventing new systems. They're remixing, simplifying, and repackaging old wisdom in a way that feels fresh. That's not a bad thing. That's just how ideas evolve. Something confuses me about this. If all systems are just remixes of older wisdom, why don't they teach you to remix for yourself? Not everyone gets to turn their system into a movement. So what separates those who succeed from those who don't? I think marketing and branding is very important. A system isn't just about effectiveness. It's about how well it's packaged. If you can make something sound like a breakthrough, even if it isn't, it sells. Authority and perception play a big part in this too. I mean, if a random person tells you to follow their system, you might ignore them. But if someone with credibility, even if it's fabricated, says it, people do listen. A good system doesn't need to be the most effective. It just needs to be easy to understand and apply. Think of the idea of just doing it versus a complicated workout routine. This is why so many popular systems are shallow. They're designed to be easy to sell, not necessarily to help you build deeper understanding. And that's also why system building isn't taught. This is why so many popular systems are shallow. They're designed to be easy to sell, not necessarily to help you build deeper understanding. And that's also why system building itself isn't taught. Because if you knew how to build your own system from the start, you wouldn't need theirs. Every system is just someone else's remix of ideas. If you're constantly looking for the system to follow, you're putting yourself in the same position as the people who were lost before they figured out their own way. The real question isn't, which system should I follow? It's, what am I already doing that works for me? And how can I refine it into something that I actually understand? Okay, that was a little long-winded. If system building is just remixing and refining ideas, why aren't we taught how to do it? Why don't schools teach students how to design their own study methods? Why don't self-help books show you how to create your own frameworks instead of selling you theirs? The answer is simple. Followers are easier to manage. Builders are unpredictable. The world runs on systems. Governments, corporations, schools, religions. Every institution relies on structure and order to function. And for structure to hold, most people have to follow the system, not create their own. If everyone knew how to build systems, there would be no stable customer base, no lifelong followers, no dependence. The moment people stop looking for a system to follow, they stop needing someone else's answers, and that's not profitable. Let me try to break down who really benefits from keeping you a follower. At schools, you're taught how to memorize and apply existing knowledge, not how to structure your own. The school system itself is a rigid framework. You progress through predetermined steps. You don't design your own education. Standardized testing is the ultimate proof of this. You're not rewarded for creating a new way to think, only for following the correct one. If self-help and productivity gurus taught people how to build their own systems, they'd never need another self-improvement book. The industry thrives on cycles of dissatisfaction. You try a system, it doesn't work perfectly, so you look for another. They don't want you to graduate from self-help. They want you to stay enrolled forever. And I don't want to go too hard against corporate work culture, but companies rely on employees following established workflows, not designing new ones. If every worker had the ability to create more efficient systems, they wouldn't just work smarter. They'd demand more autonomy, better pay, or even leave to build their own businesses. System building isn't just neglected. It's actively discouraged. Think about history's biggest innovators. All of them rejected the systems handed to them and built their own. But they weren't rewarded for doing this at first. They were seen as disruptors, even threats. Society is designed to reward system followers while making system builders struggle, at least until they succeed. That's why the process is never made easy. Because true independence, the ability to create your own structure for success, learning, discipline, and purpose, makes you harder to control. And people in control don't want that. If we actually wanted people to learn how to create their own systems, we'd have to change the way we teach almost everything. Education would focus on adaptability over memorization. Instead of just giving students facts, they'd be trained in how to build structures for learning and problem solving. Self-help would become a toolbox, not a manual. Books wouldn't sell one method as the answer, but would show you how methods are created and refined. Workplaces would reward innovation over compliance. Companies would give employees space to optimize their workflows instead of just enforcing top-down systems. But none of this happens, because it would mean creating a society of people who are harder to control, harder to sell to, and harder to keep dependent on the existing system. If you've ever felt like something was missing from the way you were taught to improve your life, you're right. You were never meant to learn how to build systems, because if you did, you'd stop being a customer. You'd stop needing someone else to tell you how to live, work, think, or succeed. You wouldn't be dependent anymore. And once you're no longer dependent, you're free. At this point, you probably see it. The way systems are sold, the way you're trained to follow, not create. The way industries profit from keeping you dependent. So the next logical question is, how do you break out? How do you stop cycling through other people's systems and start building your own? The answer isn't glamorous. There's no 5-step formula, no perfect framework, no system. But there are principles. And once you understand these principles, you can build any system you need, one that actually works for you. Before you build a new system, you have to understand the ones that already run your life. Think about it. How do you currently structure your day? How do you decide what's important? How do you handle stress, learning, work, or creativity? You already have systems, even if they're subconscious, even if they're broken. Start by identifying them. If you work out, what makes you actually show up? If you procrastinate, what triggers it? If you're productive, what conditions make it happen? Most people try to replace bad systems with new ones, but the secret is to understand your natural tendencies first. Your best system isn't one that forces you into someone else's mold. It's one that optimizes what already works for you. The best system builders don't copy, they steal wisely. When you study great systems, don't just follow their steps. Ask, why does this system work? Let's take habit building as an example. James Clear's Atomic Habits is built on 4 principles. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. That's the real system, not the specific examples he gives. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. or track habits in an app. You just need to apply those 4 principles in a way that fits your life. Every successful system is built on core principles. Productivity systems are built on prioritization and focus. Financial systems are built on delayed gratification and cash flow management. And creative systems are built on consistency and inspiration triggers. Just find the principles, and you can build something that lasts. Here's what no guru wants to tell you, or at least I don't think so. The first version of your system is going to suck, and that's fine. The biggest mistake people make when trying to build a system is expecting it to work perfectly the first time. Think of system building like software development or writing an essay. The first version is a rough draft. You either proofread or you test it. You find punctuation mistakes or bugs and you improve it. Then you keep doing this till it fits your actual needs and not your imagined ones. Let's say you're trying to build a morning routine. Version 1, wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, journal, work out, read a book, drink green tea. Feels productive, but crashes after 3 days. Version 2, wake up at 7 a.m., stretch, drink water, and get straight to work. Works much better, but feels rushed. Version 3, wake up at 6:30 a.m., stretch, pray, drink coffee, start the day. Sustainable, natural, and effective. The key is adjusting based on reality, not forcing yourself into a system that looks good on paper but doesn't fit your life. Most prepackaged systems fail because they're too rigid, but a good system isn't a cage, it's a living thing. It evolves as you evolve. If you're more productive at night, don't force yourself to be a morning person. If your energy shifts throughout the year, design a system that adapts. If something stops working, drop it and move on. The most powerful system you can have is one that you can modify whenever you need to. That's the difference between being trapped by a system and being empowered by one. At the beginning of this thing, I said something important. No human-made system is meant to outdo the ultimate system. And if you've listened this far, you probably understand why. Because every system humans create is just a reflection. A small attempt to structure what is already designed, already flowing, already functioning perfectly in ways we can barely comprehend. The real goal isn't to obsess over finding the perfect system. It's to recognize the one you're already part of. Once you see that, you'll realize you were never meant to be just a follower. You were meant to build your destiny. But let me be clear, this isn't about making up your own ultimate truth. I don't believe in replacing the system that already governs the universe, one that was here before us and will be here long after. No human-made framework is ever going to outdo what Allah has already put in place. This is about something smaller, the structures we use in our daily lives, the habits, workflows, and routines that either serve us or don't. You can and should question the human-made systems designed to keep you dependent. But don't mistake system building for rewriting what was already perfected by the Creator. So go ahead, be unpredictable, build your own. Just don't lose sight of who built everything first.